Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to another Lost Powder stream. Today we've got a new unit, of course. It's been 2 weeks since the last one. Today is an interesting unit, and we do actually have some interesting stuff that's coming up, so let me just shut the door. We have Judecca today. Quite an interesting and exciting unit, honestly. I have been looking forward to this unit because he is quite a hype unit for considering the event stories and stuff. I kind of like this unit. He looks pretty cool, and the whole Demon Lord type units I think are pretty cool, honestly, because I do like the Demon Lords. I just think it's pretty cool in this game. So main focus of today is obviously going to be looking at the new units, and that's going to be the main thing we're going to be doing. It's probably not going to be a super long stream, but we'll see how it goes. Don't think there's too many updates or anything. Mostly going to be looking at the new units, but he does look like it's going to be quite fun. But unfortunately, he's mostly a PvP unit, so it makes me less interested with this unit because he's mostly a PvP focused unit. And I was hoping that wasn't going to be the case. I was hoping it was going to have some more, viability and PvE content at least. But oh well. Let's start this off by having a look at the news and just checking everything that's in today's update. And then we'll start having a look at everything that's in the new banners with Judecca and the new arc as well. So I personally haven't been playing this game too much over the past 2 weeks, I have to say. I kind of took last week off because I kind of want to have a break and play some other games that came out last week, but I've been playing a bit more over the past few days at least. So I think this should be the final anniversary update promos that's going on today, and then the anniversary will be finished. And I believe what's gonna happen is we've got Judecca right now, and then in 2 weeks I think it's going to be the Lilibet, whatever you call it, player's choice, whatever unit, the unit everyone chose, Lilibet. She's going to be in 2 weeks from now, I think. And then 2 weeks after that, there is a chance that could be Brave Frontier. So in 4 weeks, there could be the Brave Frontier collab, possibly, if it starts at the start of the next month. So yeah, there's something to keep an eye on to remember. So I think this unit is going to be decent. But I do want to go more in depth with this unit's kit very soon. But basically, based on what I've seen so far, he's got a lot of PvP focused skills in his kits, and his PvE potential isn't that high. And if you have Shift Arc, then he's kind of pointless for PvE content, and he's not necessary. But he is a very cool unit, so I am going to say if you like PvP, or if you just like this unit, then pull for him if you want. But I don't consider him to be a must-have at all, because you can easily skip this one probably if you don't care about PvP, and if you don't care about this unit, then it's probably best to save a Brave Frontier at this point, I think. But we'll have a look at his kit very soon after we look at everything here. And then we have the event. This is another Great War of Theodemonium event, and I do like these events because it does have some nice story in here, and I do like the story in these events. They're kind of interesting, and it's got a world map and stuff, so it's a pretty good event to grind right now, I think, because you've got the boxes you can get some stuff from, and it's got some decent story, so definitely recommend to do this event, and I'm definitely going to be doing that. Unit test play quest for the new units. That's all. I'm hoping there should be a new Insight unit at some point soon, because it's been a while. The last one was like Prince Gorm or something, and that was a few months ago. It's been a long while, because every other Insight unit till then has been a collab unit, which kind of sucks, but oh well. Tower Trials Earth's coming back, Chronicles. This boss stage is super easy, by the way. This is a rerun of this boss that was... It's a few years old at this point, I think. It's quite an old boss, so if you just go in with a Shift Arc, he can solo it by himself. That's all you need, really. If you have Shift Arc, He just clears it by himself. Even any recent unit should clear it quite easily, as long as they have, you know, enough mitigation, but it's pretty easy, and you do get a good weapon from this too, so definitely make sure to do that before this disappears, because you never know if this is going to come back or not. Then of course we got the new banners for the new units and the arc, and then some more free banners where you can get a guaranteed hero unit on the last pull, which is nice, and then some promo updates. So honestly, not too much going on today really. Promo updates always come back, and then some shop updates, which you never really care about too much. The skins look nice, but I never buy skins in this game because they're just recolor skins. They're not my favorite, but some people like them anyways. And some other updates. They've added 2 new equipment to the Adventure Metal trading space, which could be pretty good. I have looked at them, they look decent, but nothing crazy, so it's nothing to worry about really. And then some fixes, so there's not too much really going on today. That's basically everything in the maintenance notice, just a new event and some returning events and new units. That's kind of the main thing really. And there is one thing that is important, is they've added this quest to the 7th anniversary event, so now you can get the guaranteed unit trade ticket from this stage. So I do want to show that real quick, just so I can get it out of the way. Otherwise people are going to be nagging me about it. What should I be using this ticket on? And it's going to come up many times. I bet you it's going to happen. But yeah, you just go in this event stage and you can get the ticket right here from this one. And next week is going to be some crystals, which is nice. But with the unit trade tickets, let's just have a look at that right now and go over some recommendations with this ticket, and then we'll start looking at the new units and the arc, because that'll be interesting. So the unit trade space is right here. I'm missing these units. Honestly, don't get any of these unless you're in my situation where you've got all the important ones anyways. So let's see who it goes up to. Crappy Bayland. So yeah, I can already guess what you should be selecting from this ticket. If you don't have some of these units yet, highly recommend to pick them. Your number 1 choice, of course, is going to be Spirit Maiden Sarah. Everyone can get a free Spirit Maiden Sarah right now if you don't have her yet, so this is going to be your number 1 choice if you don't have her yet. And if you don't have her yet, you're probably just a super new player, because no older players are not going to have her at this point, because there's been many opportunities to get this unit. So definitely make sure to get her if you don't have her yet, because she's still arguably the best unit in the game still, and she is going to last a long time because she's a support unit. And then I suppose if you already have her, then Civil Society lineage is still very useful, and even if you have Yuda, he can still be useful and is considered a bit more useful in you know, some scenarios. Like he's got double hits for magic, which allows for charging your special quicker, and he's just got a lot more viability for endgame content, I think, than Yuda. So he's still a good pick, probably my 2nd pick honestly. And Dark Holy Knight Ruto is a good pick with the ticket as well, but for PvP purposes, if you care about that at all, he's still a great unit for PvP, so definitely a great unit to have. And those are like the main 3 that I would pick in my opinion. Spirit Maiden Sarah being number 1, and then Civil Society Linus, and then Dark Ruto. Probably those 3 in that order is what I would pick, and then apart from that, it becomes less important, I think. You don't really need any of the other ones. Yes, you've got Lilhar, but Linus is a better choice. Archbing Melee is a great one. She can be a pick as well if you don't have her, because she is still one of the best ailment units in the game, so she is quite useful for some endgame content, and because of that, she does have some good value. So I do consider her to be a good pick as well. If you care about PvE content, she's more for that, but she can work in PvP as well sometimes too, and that's kind of it. So those 4 units, I would suggest to get those. Spirit Maiden Sarah first, and then Linus, and then it depends on what you care about the most. Melee can be more useful than Ruto. If you don't care about PvP in the slightest, then Ruto's kind of pointless, but Melee does have use in PvE content, so she'll probably be the 3rd pick in that scenario. But those 4 units, if you already have those 4 units, then it doesn't matter too much who you get really, because every other unit in here is kind of, you know, not that useful anymore, apart from Labyrinth, who's still quite a good PvP unit, and especially in guild battles. She could be a good pick as well. And I don't think there's really anyone else. Leodor, possibly, but I don't really use him too much anymore. And that's probably it, I think. A lot of these units are outdated. Like, you've got Soleil's never used, Zero is outdated and never used anymore, Adele's useless, you know, a lot of these units are useless, so you can just ignore those. I don't know what I'm going to pick. I should probably pick Kaine, because I know she's kind of useful for PvP, and also she's got some good, you know, XP and stuff, so I'm probably going to pick this unit because she seems like the most useful for my account, at least, because all of these units are kind of whatever. Or I could just pick Devon, because then I believe he should give me more crystals, but oh well. I'm going to keep that ticket there for the moment. Just pick based on what content you care about, and if you don't have Spirit Main of Sarah, then make sure to get that unit. Now, we'll leave that there for the moment. That's everything about the tickets, and now let's have a look at the banners and start having a look at the new units, which is going to be the main focus of today, of course. Demon Lord Judecca-Samekh looks pretty cool. I like the design of this unit. He looks very cool, honestly. I would like to get this unit because I just like this unit, and he's, you know, a cool unit. I like this unit. I just wish he had more, you know, supportive skills and long-term useful skills in his kit, but unfortunately doesn't, apart from charisma. There aren't that many other banners going on, just a few Redux banners for Magius, who has another week left. If you're wondering if you should be putting on this banner, he's still very good. He's a great unit, but he isn't considered a must-have, so it's kind of up to you. He's still good in PvP, but I honestly haven't been using him in Arena lately because there are, you know, because of Benimaru existing, it kind of makes Magius useless. If you find a Benny, then Magius just dies instantly, so that's the one reason why I'm not using him. But he's still very strong in guild battles and can be used in PvE content to get bosses too, and this is one of the better arcs available as well. It's a super strong arc, so it is a useful banner to pull on, I suppose, but nothing's a must-have, so it's kind of up to you. There is another week left, and there's Brave Frontier collab coming up very soon, next month, so there are some things to save for. So it may not be a priority, honestly, unless you have a bunch of crystals already. If you're someone that's tight on crystals, then you probably don't need to pull, and it's probably better to save a Brave Frontier collab instead, because that's going to be the best thing to save for, I think. Even though we have no idea what it's going to have, it's a collab, so it's best to save collabs at least. So now let's have a look at everything in this new banner. Let's start having a look at the unit first of all. So Demon Lord, we have another Demon Lord unit in the game. Very nice. I think there's going to be at least 2 more Demon Lords. That's what it seems like to me. 1 or 2, probably 2. There's going to be Demon Lord Karma Nog and the other female one. So, Demon Lord Judecca-Samekh looks pretty cool. He's got some wings. He just looks like a very cool unit. I like this design. He looks great. All the Demon Lords look pretty cool. I think my favourite design is definitely Karma Nog. He is my favourite one because he's like a giant dragon type unit. So, I'm looking forward to that one. So, Judecca is a creature type unit because demons are considered creatures in this game. That's just how it works. Very high strength, HP defense, looking pretty good on the stats overall. And I do think his strength, based on what I've seen in the unit test play quest, seems like it's pretty high. He was hitting around 14,000 strength in the unit test play quest. Even though that is a max build with paid equipment, it's still quite good, I think. So he should have some quite high strength, I think. Now, his attribute resistances are quite strong, I have to say. Plus 45 to ice is quite hilarious, because Amelia, you know, you can easily get him to 100 ice resistance in guild battles. If you use an ice boost and put him in your fort, he's going to have 100 ice resistance, so it's quite a funny thing to think about, at least. Minus 22 Earth doesn't really matter because we don't really have any Earth PvP units, so it doesn't really matter too much, and plus 15 to Light does help because of Logzeus, so good attribute resistances for PvP content, I think. And element resistances look pretty good for a... I think he's like a tanky damage dealer, like a bruiser type unit, so these are quite good element resistances. He's got resistance to curse and illness, which is quite nice, and nil to stun, so very good element resistances for a physical damage dealer. I do like to see that. And now let's have a look at his skills. Now his skills unfortunately are not very good. I have to say it, they're not very good. They're kind of bad because they're a bit slow and they look like a very small area of effect. They can't snipe units or anything. They're just very small areas, and I'm not a fan of the skills because he's more of like a single target damage dealer. That's what it feels like to me because of how small the area on his skills are, and he's like focused on hitting one enemy. I think he's going to be strong, yes, but the problem is he can't like hit multiple enemies like a Telesteel or something like that has AoE skills. Judecca can't really do anything like that, I don't think, but we'll have to see how it works in practice when people actually try him out in Arena. But let's start off with his skill 1. Skill 1 is a medium area thunder combo attack. Nothing special about this. This is 7 hits. It's not that amazing, honestly. It's nothing noteworthy to it, really. Probably not going to use it too much, but okay, I suppose. And then skill 2 says exactly the same thing, but this one does launch the enemy, so it kind of picks the enemy up and then, you know, puts the unit behind it. I don't know how to say it, but you understand when you see animation, but it basically picks up the unit and throws them behind. It could be quite a decent one for PvP, I think, because it's got some utility with moving the enemy units that it's targeting. As long as they're not guarding or something, then, or flinch resistance, then it could be quite nice. And it should be able to proc backstab at least once on one of the hits, so that's something, I suppose. And this one's 13 hits, which you're never going to be using his skill 1 or skill 2 for DPS because they're just bad. For DPS, his actual DPS was bad. Yeah, his art design is very good. I like his design a lot. Definitely on the higher end of units designs in the game, in my opinion. He's a cooler looking unit, not like a basic normal human type unit that we always get. He's more unique Demon Lord type units. I like these units the most. They are my favorite units because they got a more unique design to them that you don't see in other games really that often, so I do like it. And now we get on to his skill 3. Now his skill 3 is what you're going to be using most of the time. This is his best skill that he should be using because of one part in his kit, which we'll have a look at in a moment. But this skill 3 is a close the gap skill, and it does a medium area thunder combo attack, so it kind of sucks that it's a medium area. I wish it had a wider area. I wish it covered a wider area so then it could hit multiple enemies. In PvP that would have been a lot better, but it's still a solid skill. For PvE content, you're going to be using this the most, and basically never using his skill 1 or skill 2 in PvE content, because the skill 3 is going to be so much better than his other skills. This one's 20 hits, but the thing about this skill, even though it's 20 hits, it does get extra hits from his trait 1, which we'll go over that when we have a look at his trait in a moment. So we'll come back to the skill 3 once we go over the trait 1. Yeah, I do like the designs. In this game, there's a lot of good designs. That's why I like this game. I love the pixel art sprites. I'm a fan of pixel art RPG games. They look pretty cool. So his special, I think this one's going to be solid, honestly. Seems like it's going to be pretty decent, but nothing crazy. This one is a powerful thunder combo attack to one enemy, and it has plus 500,000 damage cap, so it is going to have a lot of damage cap, but it's only to one enemy. And this one is 51 hits, which honestly, 51 hits, and you also get plus 500,000 damage cap isn't that bad, because he will have more damage caps from the rest of his kit, assuming. And 51 hits with the extra plus 500,000 damage cap seems like it's going to be a pretty decent special, I think. So I think a special is going to be nice. So about all of his skills, I think they're just kind of mid skills. I wish these skills were better because they just seem like a very small area skills, kind of like Zero. If you remember Prefect of God Zero, his skills were very small area, like just single target focused unit, and that's what it kind of reminds me of because all of his skills seem like a small area to me, apart from his skill 3 that could potentially be a wider area. I'm not entirely sure. And his skill 2 can, you know, pick up an enemy and throw them behind him, so maybe that could be useful in some scenarios. But who knows? I'm just thinking about it. Yeah, Grand Summoners, I wish I could like that game, but I just don't because of the people behind it are trash. They're bad developers. I don't want to go that far, but they make bad decisions. I've tried the game a little bit, and they make terrible decisions. And I'm just glad that Last Cloudia doesn't have the same people behind it, because otherwise we'll be screwed. And if you care about, you know, the gacha revenue websites, I I know that they're not always accurate, but Last Cloudia is slightly making a bit more than Grand Summoners, which makes me happy, because Last Cloudia is the better game in every single way. So, yeah. Yeah, I did play Guardian Tales. It wasn't really my type of thing, because it's more of a Zelda type game, but yeah, that's not going to last much else. Let's have a look at his trait 1 next. So, trait 1 is where he gets the extra hits. So, when equipped with only one weapon and using a skill 3, so this only applies when using a skill 3, it uses 10% of his maximum HP for an extra attack plus 20 hits. So it basically doubles the hit count of his skill 3, because his skill 3 is 20 hits at base, and now with this trait 1, he's using 10% of max HP to get 20 more hits for his skill 3, which is a lot of hits because it's doubling the hits of skill 3, and that is what makes his skill 3 quite good, at least somewhat usable for PvE content. It's not going to be amazing. If you compare it to the current top best damage dealers like Shift Arc or Christmas Rem, it's not going to be as good. He's more on the average side of DPS with a skill 3, which is, it's nice to see that it can be at least somewhat usable in PvE content, only if you spam his skill 3 non-stop. In that scenario, he could be, you know, usable, and it's not going to be that bad, but if you compare it to Shift Arc, it is going to be noticeably worse, and that's the thing, is if you're just caring about PvE content, then he's not going to provide much there, because he doesn't have many supportive skills in his kits. Apart from it, he doesn't have any apart from his charisma, and his skill 3 is his only semi-decent DPS skill, and it doesn't even compare to the current best damage dealers in the game for PvE content, so it's not going to be anything crazy. It's like around, between, let's say, is around 7 million DPS on his skill 3. It's solid, yes, but it's not going to be comparable to Shift Arc or Christmas Ram, so yeah, nothing crazy there. And the one important thing is it does use your maximum HP, so you're going to need some form of healing, otherwise he's probably going to end up killing himself because of using his skill 3, but it's probably not much of an issue, honestly. The one thing you have to be aware of is skills like Ardor. Any skill that has an effect when you have maximum health is not really going to work with this unit, if using his skill 3 at least. So that's one thing to keep in mind, he's never really going to be at max health most of the time if using skill 3. So, here is something more interesting. At the start of the battle and when close to death, give this unit a void shield buff for 7 seconds. So Adis likes 7 for some reason. They like to give unique buffs 7 seconds quite often. I don't know why, but it's just how it is. 7 seconds isn't very long, by the way. It's pretty short, but let's see what it does anyway. So it also very greatly restores HP plus 90,000 cap close to death is only once per wave, of course. So what does this buff actually do? So when you have this buff active, you take 80% less damage from enemies. So all damage taken minus 80%, which is insane. It's quite a lot. But you gotta remember, this is only for 7 seconds. Okay. And as well as that, nullify criticals and anti-type effects, and nullify enemy attacks, defense, piercing effects. Now, I know this sounds very strong of an effect. I know it sounds crazy, but it's not as crazy as you think, because it only lasts 7 seconds and a maximum of 14 seconds, because after that you won't be able to get it back. Well, yes, 7 is lucky, but like, why pick 7 seconds for a buff? It could have been like 10 seconds, would have made more sense, but oh well. So these effects are super strong. The only issue is it only lasts once this buff is active. So the nullify criticals and anti-type effects and nullify piercing effects only apply when you have this buff active, and they are super strong PvP effects, but the issue is they're only active when this buff is active, and outside of this buff he's probably going to be quite squishy in my opinion. Based on what I've seen, I'm going to guess that he's probably going to be quite squishy outside of this buff, but we'll have to wait and see. And I know in PvP, especially Arena, 7 seconds can be enough time to, you know, decide who wins. But the biggest problem about this that I have to bring up is Ruto. And the reason why I'm saying Ruto is because he can nullify physical and magic damage for 10 seconds, right? And Judecca, his buff only lasts for 7 seconds. Unless you activate it again, then it's 14 seconds. So you're seeing the problem is there's like a 4-second window of him being able to actually do something, pretty much, if the enemy team is using a Ruto. So, and because his skills are quite a small area on his skills, he's not very likely to snipe other enemies. So that's kind of an issue that I'm seeing, is if the enemy is using a long-range unit or using a Shift Log Zeus spamming a skill 2 with Maglion as a long-range unit, then, and they also have a Ruto, then I feel like Judecca's probably not going to do too much, because he can't kill a Ruto, because Ruto can be immune to damage for 10 seconds. So that's just the main issue that I'm thinking of when I think of PvP, is yes, this is very strong, but it's only 7 seconds, maximum of 14 seconds if you activate it again, but Ruto lasts 10 seconds, so that's the problem. But if they're not using Ruto, then he's probably going to be quite strong. He doesn't nullify damage completely for 7 seconds, but he does become insanely tanky, so that's the thing. Yeah, Linus is definitely the best pick out of all those. Balezar's kind of outdated at this point and not really used too much anymore, so you can kind of forget about them, honestly. I think this trait one's good. You can see this buff effect is heavily PvP focused, because nullify criticals, anti-type effects, and piercing effects is basically only a PvP effect right there, because no bosses, it's not going to matter against bosses, is it? Never. So now let's move on to his trait 2. When only one spear is equipped, so he is going to be a spear unit, which is interesting. We don't get spear units that often. Increase thunder damage by 60% and damage cap by 150,000. When armor is equipped, damage taken from enemies minus 40%, so 40% more damage mitigation is very nice. When using a skill, can't be interrupted by most attacks, very nice. When a skill attack deals a critical hit, is quite a nice thing. When a skill attack deals a critical hit, it reduces enemy thunder resistance by 30 to deal damage, and when a critical hit occurs, breaks enemy guard. This is very strong. This is quite strong, because every single critical hit on his skills is going to be basically a 30 resistance piercing on his critical hits. So let's say the enemy has 20 thunder resistance, and Judecca has, does a critical hit against that enemy, then that one hit that did the critical hit is going to hit weakness, because that's going to treat as if the enemy had -10 thunder resistance. Now, very important to say that it's not a debuff. It's not a debuff, it's just like a piercing effect. But the fact that it is a flat -30 resistance effect is very strong, because it's not 30%, it's not a percent. It's just a flat 30 resistance piercing effect, so it can allow you to hit weakness a lot easier on your critical hits. So I do like that a lot. And then the extra effect right here, when a critical hit occurs, break enemy guard. This basically implies that every single critical hit on this unit is going to break guard guaranteed. And that just sounds very strong to me. And if the enemy can't nullify critical hits or isn't using, the biggest counter to this is Beast of the End. That arc just completely counters this entire effect. But if they're not using that, and they can take critical damage, and it is a unit like Melzer or Ruto or someone that relies on guard, then he can just break guard quite easily, because as long as he can land critical hits, he can break guard instantly. So that is quite a strong effect right there for PvP, I have to say. Yeah, it's going pretty well. So I do like this trait too. So far, most of these effects seem quite strong. You've got trait 1 with basically doubling his skill 3 hit counts, which is nice, and this unique buff, which a lot of units have a unique buff honestly, but this to nullify criticals, anti-types, piercing, take 8% less damage, is going to be very tanky. And some even more mitigation in his trait 2, and the critical hit effects are quite nice to see, honestly, very strong effects for PvP, so I do think he has some potential for PvP so far. Based on these traits, he seems like he's going to be quite good, but we're going to have to really see of what his actual damage looks like, and I am going to imagine he's going to be quite tanky. At least when he has his buff active, he's going to be quite tanky, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if he can actually survive without this buff. I wonder. I doubt it, but let's have a look at the rest of his skills now. So, he does have a charisma, thankfully, which can make him, somewhat useful as a support unit just for the charisma, but I wouldn't really recommend it, because you'll see what it is. Let's see what it is first. So, all allies thunder damage 35% and damage cap plus 12,000. So, it's a pretty basic charisma. We've seen other effects like this before for different elements. 35% thunder damage, 12,000 damage cap as well. It's pretty good, but the issue is there's like 0 other meta thunder damage dealers for PvE content. So you can't really take advantage of this that much, because there are hardly any other thunder damage dealer units in the game right now. And it's been a very long time since we've had a thunder damage dealer. So currently Judecca is like the only unit that can take advantage of this, or maybe a mage like Linus that can use thunder magic, or Lilahar or someone that uses thunder magic. That's kind of it. Yes, you could use like a Sonic or someone, but they're just very outdated at this point. So yeah, can't really get much use out of this, honestly. And I'm pretty sure that's the only supportive thing he has in his kit. So yeah, he doesn't really provide too much to the team apart from that. Let's have a look at his passive skills now. Attack up max, fighting spirit max, heroism up max. Gonna have some very good strength, for sure. And HP should be nice, all stat up. I like seeing this. So we've got 15% strength from each of these times 4. And HP plus 15% times 3 as well. It's quite nice. I wonder when we get like above max. Like I know it's gonna happen at some point, when we're gonna have like, what could it either be above max, like max plus 1, or like ultra max, super max, something. It's going to happen eventually. Or max 2, they could just start doing that, like max 1, 2, 3, 4. They're going to do something eventually. I wonder if all stat up will end up being a learnable skill. That'd be interesting. It'd be like 20 SC, but hilarious. Proud Force. He doesn't have any critical up skills here, which kind of sucks. But Proud Force does help with some healing, and he does have auto critical, so that's going to be some crit rate. Critical rate on this unit is going to be quite useful, more useful than normal units, because he does have the effect in his trait 2 that can, you know, break guard and reduce resistance, so critical hits are going to be quite useful. Yeah, Alice and De Groog, but they didn't last very long. Alice is outdated as well. De Groog was never really good, so they're not used. I don't use either of them. I've got Alice, but I never use her anymore, unfortunately, because they're just better options, and Shift Arc just, you know, completely shits on everyone else. That's just the truth, really. No arguments about that. Divinity Busters, obviously, because he is like a god slayer type unit, because he's a Demon Lord. Demon Lords against gods is kind of the whole point. So Divinity Buster makes sense. And Divinity Shield 2 is quite nice to see. Anti-type boosts, of course. Auto critical, auto haste, thunder armor 2. I think that's take less damage from ice, which is nice by 35%. It's going to be quite good. Awaken 2, thunder terror drive, thunder attack raise 5. Some nice skills. Pose of victory, close combat 3. I like this one because we don't see this very often. Physical damage plus 30% and damage cap plus 10,000 to the closest enemy. It's not a teachable skill, so it is a nice one to have in the units kit. So it's even more damage and damage cap there. Favored sword, instant strike 2. Physical attack crits have a chance for damage plus 150% and damage cap plus 100,000. It's going to be quite nice. I hope he doesn't rely on critical hits, but he shouldn't. But I know for a fact that his critical hits should hit quite hard if this activates. And this will activate at the same time. It's guaranteed. If you hit a critical hit that lands this skill, Instant Strike 2, and then it's going to be guaranteed to activate these as well. So you're more likely to hit weakness, and it's going to guaranteed break enemy guard. It's going to be quite nice. Two-handed spear, more critical rate is very nice. Spear mega boost. Now the thing about spear boosts is you take less physical damage from spear boosts, so these are quite nice for bruiser type units and are the best boosts. We just can't take advantage of them that often, but when we get a unit like this that uses a spear and is a bruiser type unit, it's very strong because you're getting physical damage and you're also getting physical damage mitigation, so it's a very nice skill. And you can also put on spear boost and high boost because they're also learnable skills. I don't think we have a Giga Boost yet that's learnable, so that might come in the future maybe. Special Boost 3, Skill Charge 3, Honorable Spirit, Cloak of Majesty 3 is a new one. I bet this gets on a learnable arc in the future. It's probably going to happen. Cross Drive, damage plus 40% to physically attacking enemies. 15,000 for both of them is quite crazy. Adamantium, when near death, defense and mind plus 30%, based on how low HP is, maximum plus 50%. So more defense and mind based on how low your HP is, can be quite nice. And then we get on to his unique skills. He does have some nice ones here. Let's have a look at what they are. So the first one here, damage taken during skill attacks plus 25%. So he will take 25% more damage during his skills, but increase skill damage by 80%. And when using a skill, boost movement speed. I wonder how much movement speed boost he gets. It honestly doesn't really matter too much if you're using skill 3, because that's a closer gap skill anyways, but for skill 1 and skill 2 it could be nice. I haven't looked at it yet. We're going to have a look at later on how much movement speed he gets from it. I wouldn't expect it to be that much, but we'll see. The 80% skill damage though is quite a lot. That's an insane boost from a skill, and the fact that this is a unique skill on this unit that's going to stack with everything else is going to be quite strong. So I do like that. Even though he does take more damage during the skills, it's not going to matter when he has this buff active, but it is going to matter a lot without the buff. That's the issue that I'm kind of thinking of, is when he doesn't have the buff active, he's probably going to be a bit squishy, because he's going to be taking more damage from this skill. But maybe his other damage mitigation skills will make up for it, who knows. So the next one here, continuous EX Brave effect. If enemy strength is equal to or less than this unit, then you take 35% less damage, and increase special damage by 100% as well. This one's quite nice. So it basically wants you to increase his strength by as much as you can, so that he has the high strength. So if he's up against a Shiflog Zeus, and that Shiflog Zeus has less strength, then that Shiflog Zeus is going to do less damage to Judecca, which is quite nice. And the next one here, strength is increased by 100%, which is a lot. It is quite a lot. When only weapon equipped is one spear, physical attack and special damage is increased by 40%, and damage cap 8,000, physical damage and special damage to god type enemies plus 60%. So yes, he is going to be a god killer. That's his main role. Now you may be thinking, well, is he going to counter Shiflog Zeus completely? Yes, but no. And the reason why I'm saying that is it takes a lot more than one unit, and a lot more than just that, to, you know, get rid of Shiflog Zeus, because Shiflog Zeus has his Thunderbolt attacks, the extra attacks that randomly hit enemies, and the fact that he's very tanky as well, does a lot of damage. That's why he's such a good unit, because he can hit multiple enemies, and he can even stay far back with his skill too, and he's just, it's not going to make Log Zeus useless, that's the thing. Log Zeus is such a strong unit that he's not going to disappear by just one unit changing the meta up. Like, Magius couldn't do it. Judecca's probably not going to do it either. It's not going to change the fact that Shiflog Zeus is such a broken unit, okay? I find it hard to believe that it's going to change anything, but we'll have to wait and see. So the next one here, won't flinch from ice and thunder magic attacks, which is quite nice, because ice, magic, Amelia, it's going to be very good, and have a chance to recover 30% damage taken from those as well, which is very good. And the next one, each wave, first skill used, increased damage by 50%, damage cap 30,000. When defeating an enemy, it resets this. And also when defeating an enemy from a skill, recover 1 SCT stock for that skill. So let's say you use a skill 3 and it kills an enemy, it will restore 1 stock of that skill 3. And if you kill 2 enemies with 1 skill 3, it restores 2 skill stocks for your skill 3. So it is quite a strong skill. I do like this one. So basically, you kill enemies, you get more ST and more damage. It's quite a nice one. And then we get on to the 6th enhanced skills down here. This one is Great Demon Lord. This is a 6th enhanced skill. Non-basic stats element resistance +1, so things like freeze resistance, that's what it gives, so that's quite nice. And damage taken from human and spirit type enemies -30%. For some reason it doesn't include god types, but oh well. Yeah, ice is water, so nullify strength, defense, intelligence, and mind down debuffs from active skills. Yeah, that's not. I don't. Fine. Sure. Enjoy your puns in your corner. I am a fan of puns, but you know, I don't know what to say. Nullifying debuffs from active skills is going to be nice. Nothing crazy, but decent one. Take 20% less damage. More when you have a spear equipped, increased damage and damage cap. Skill damage against non-boss enemies. When hitting weakness, more damage, adds a lot of damage. More damage cap and skill charge 3, which will stack with his skill charge 3. Well, yeah, they released summon animations in the previous anniversary, the 6.5 anniversary, I believe, or maybe it was 6th anniversary. Quite a while ago at this point they released. Yeah, it was 6.5 anniversary. They adjusted gacha animations, So it's been here for a few months at this point. So based on what I'm seeing in this unit's kits, it's quite impressive for a PvP unit, but there are some concerns I have with this unit. I have to say, it looks like he should be doing a lot of damage, because he does have a lot of damage in his kit. So I am hopeful that he should be able to do quite a lot of damage. And he does have some good mitigation, especially with this buff. But the one thing that I'm concerned about is there are ways to completely, nullify parts of this unit's kits. And what I mean by that is, if he's up against a Ruto, he can't really kill a Ruto, and 10 seconds are wasted from this buff, and then you get 4 seconds of time where it can actually do something. That's kind of the issue, is Ruto is an issue. And as well as that, Beast of the End exists, which can nullify critical hits entirely, which makes this part of his trait 2 useless if the enemy's using Beast of the End. So that's the kind of issues I'm seeing, and I don't know if he has enough mitigation without this buff active. So here's what I'm picturing right now, is let's say I'm using a tank Logzeus team with Logzeus, Serra, and Ruto and someone else. If I'm using that team, for instance, and I'm going up against a Judecca, well, Judecca's just going to be hitting Ruto while Logzeus is spamming his skill 2, right? Maybe Logzeus ends up using his skill 1 or skill 3 when he runs out of SCT, and then he'll be in line of sight of Judecca, and then Judecca's probably going to kill Logzeus in that scenario. But if Logzeus is still long range spamming his skills 2 non-stop, then Judecca probably can't kill him, because he's going to be targeting Ruto, and he can't kill Ruto. So I think it's going to be kind of a problem, but if you're using a full tank team with Judecca, it might be pretty good. But another thing that I'm also thinking about is, how is his performance against Benimaru? He should definitely tank counter units for sure, but against Benimaru I'm not sure, because he has a lot of damage and mitigation as well, so I don't know how that's going to play out, honestly. I feel like Benimaru's probably going to lose, because Judecca, when he has his buff active, is going to be more tanky. That's just kind of what I'm thinking about at the moment. So I think he has some potential, and he's definitely going to need a lot of testing in PvP, because he does seem like he's going to have a lot of damage and good amount of mitigation too, but I don't know if it's going to be enough mitigation, honestly, when he doesn't have this buff active. But when he does have this buff, he's going to be quite strong. But can it, compete with Shift Logzeus? I'm not sure. I think if you're just like 1 versus 1, yes, Judecca's going to win, because if you're not using a tank, Shift Logzeus is going to be quite vulnerable and is going to die, guaranteed. But once Judecca loses this buff, I would assume Shift Logzeus should be able to start killing Judecca, but we're going to have to wait and see on that, because he does have Divinity Shield 2 and still some good mitigation against score types, so we'll have to wait and see. But there is some potential here, and Amelia is basically a non-issue with this unit. That is another upside to this unit, is Amelia's not really going to do much against this unit, because Judecca gets this buff at the start of the battle, which nullifies all damage taken, and he also has 45 ice resistance, so he's basically not going to take any damage from any Suicide Amelia builds, or any Amelia magic spells. He's not going to do much or anything at all. He's not going to take much damage from Amelia, and he's also got the one skill somewhere over here somewhere that, won't flinch from ice magic. So yeah, I think this is Adis' solution, or one of their solutions to Amelia, and that is just make a unit that will never ever flinch from ice magic and cannot die at the start of the battle from an Amelia. And there you go. He is going to be a very easy to use unit against Amelia. If you're up against a team that is only using Amelia, then I feel like he's going to be quite good against that team. If the enemy's using Amelia plus Telestio, I believe Judecca should be quite good against those teams. So I think he is going to change up the meta a little bit, especially with Amelia. I think him now being able to tank Amelia and existing is going to be, you know, change up things slightly, but I think it's going to go more in favour of Logzeus now than Amelia, probably, because, I mean, it's still kind of a chess match of how things go in Arena, but we'll have to wait and see how he actually does with testing, but I doubt I get this unit. We're going to have to wait for some other people to test him out, because he seems like he's going to be quite good. I just feel like, how long is it going to last in the current PvP meta? I'm not sure. He could just easily get power creeps quite quickly, we don't know. And Ruto's the problem. So let's have a look at the arc next. This one has all of the Demon Lords in it, which is quite cool. Lords of Demonium, all 5 Demon Lords. We have Balezar, Judecca, Memtolomia, Kaina, or whatever her name is, and then Demon Lord Karmanog. I'm looking forward to him the most, but so far we had these front 3, and then these 2 at the back should be units in the future. That's my guess, but let's have a look at the trait now. So, Thunder skill damage plus 40%, damage cap plus 5000, skill damage dealt to the closest enemies increased by 20%, and damage cap plus 7000. Every time you defeat an enemy, boost strength maximum of 30% at 5 enemies. Resets each wave though, and when you have a spear equipped, you take 20% less damage from enemies. Yes, it is a very strong trait, but it doesn't have a arc skill, and this is definitely mainly for Judecca. You can tell, because Thunder skill damage, and when you have a spear equipped, you take less damage, so of course it's going to be just for Judecca, right? This is like a an arc that's going to pair perfectly with the units. Even if you get both of them at the same time, it's going to be quite nice. Yes, it's going to be a very good arc trait. It's nothing crazy, but the craziest thing about this is the fact that you get 40% thunder skill damage and then an extra 20% skill damage to the closest enemy. That is what I think is the best thing about this trait, and what you could use this on any thunder damage dealer, like Suzaku could use it, or that's kind of it, because there's not really any other thunder PvP unit that can use it right now. But in the future, if there ends up being any other thunder PvP unit, then this will be insanely good on them, I think, just for the damage. And if they can use a spear, then it's even better, because more mitigation as well, and it does boost strength for every enemy you kill as well. So this is going to be an amazing trait for PvP. It's mostly PvP skill, honestly. You're not really going to be using it in PvE content. Yes, it does give some damage cap and strength, but there are better options, like Susanoo Arc and Icy Guardian are still the 2 best in the game. It's not going to come close, so yeah, just the PvP arc trait there. And then the learnable skills, Thunder Raid is quite nice if you don't have it yet. All gone up 3, strength and intelligence 8%. Thunder Mega Drive is quite nice. Nightbuster, I think it's the first time I've seen Nightbuster. I know it's not crazy because you could just use Night Slayer, but here's the thing now. You could give Archbeing Megius Nightbuster, and that means his counter attacks will have a Night Slayer effect. I think that could be quite strong, honestly. That could be quite good. Maybe. Possibly. That's kind of the only situation where I would use it, really. And here's a unique one. So when using a skill, use 15% of your maximum HP to boost damage cap by 5000. And when you're equipped with only one weapon, increase it by another 5000 for 8 SC. I think it's okay. but it's more of a utility skill, I think, because it's going to allow you to reduce your damage every time you use a skill, which can sometimes be useful for low HP builds, which I know some players like to mess around with that. I personally don't like to mess around with it because it's very risky, and I've never had the skills to be able to do it properly, but this is mostly a PvE thing, of course, and it just gives damage cap, but reducing HP can be used in some scenarios. And then the final skill is the one skill that I mentioned was probably going to exist earlier, is Spear Giga Boost, of course. So 15% more damage, and take 15% less damage from physical attacks. Going to be very strong for Judecca, of course, because then you can have Spear Boost, High Boost, Mega Boost, and Giga Boost. It's going to be very nice. So, well, this arc definitely seems PvP focused so far because of the traits. The trait for PvP, giving quite a lot of damage and 20% mitigation when you have a spear equipped, and strength when you defeat an enemy. And you've also got Spear Giga Boost for Judecca, and Thunder Mega Drive, Thunder Rage. You know, got a lot of good stuff in here just for Judecca and for PvP. And let's have a look at the arcade reward. It's a Thunder Spear, of course. Strength, Thunder physical damage, 25% when hitting weakness, 3000 damage cap. You know, I think it's quite solid considering you can use this on dual wield units. When hitting weakness, 3000 damage cap. And you also get Thunder physical damage, 25%. It's quite solid, honestly. The only issue is not many units can use it, and it's a spear. But it's going to be quite nice for dual wield damage dealers in PvE content. We just don't have many of them. And spear is not really ever the best choice because machines are better, swords are better. So, yeah, not the best really, but it's a decent spear at least for Judecca. Could be a good option. And that's everything about this arc. I do think it's quite a strong one. It's mostly a PvP arc, honestly, because it's just for Judecca, really. If you get the arc without Judecca, I still think it's going to be useful, because this arc trait could be useful in the future. And some of these skills, like Spear Giga Boost, could be useful on certain spear units or tanks. You could put it on a tank unit, like you could give Melza, for instance, a spear, and then give her all of the spear boosts. Yeah, swords are the most easiest accessible weapons, and they give the highest physical damage, and most units in the game are swords, so yeah. And we have more. There are certain collab limited skills that require a sword as well. It depends on the unit, but a lot of units use a sword, that's kind of why. So yeah, I do think it's a good arc. Don't recommend pulling for it, you can easily skip it. It has more use with the unit. If you get the unit and the arc, they're going to go very well together, and you're going to be able to make Judecca a little bit stronger with this arc, but it's not necessary. You don't need it, because Judecca's going to work fine without it. He's going to be still pretty good without it, and it's not necessary, because it's not like a prefect, it's not like a Xenobus and Prefect of God Zero scenario where they must be together all the time, because it's such a massive damage increase. It's not really like that situation, I think, but it is a quite a significant difference. But there are alternatives, that's the thing. There are a good amount of alternatives, like Blaze Garden is amazing for mitigation, HP and damage. There are alternatives to this, so it's not, you don't need it, but it would be nice to have with the unit, I think. So that's everything in this banner. I think definitely a heavily PvP focused banner for sure. You've got a PvP focused unit, and then you've got an arc which pairs perfectly with the unit. So yeah, it's kind of another situation like, you know, Prefect of God Zero, but not as extreme, I don't think. It's not as extreme as that, but it's still something to keep in mind, that if you get the arc, yes, you're going to be able to do slightly better, but it's not necessary. It's just one of those, we don't get these situations often where the arc pairs with the unit. It doesn't happen all the time. Usually the arc doesn't have any relation to the unit whatsoever, but this time the arc is paired with the unit. So now let's have a look at his paid equipment. Good thing is, he doesn't have any 50 credential paids, and we haven't seen any this anniversary, so I'm happy about that. So of course he has a spear, thunder spear. When equipped with only one weapon, thunder damage, physical damage is increased by 40%, and damage cap 10,000. Thunder physical attack damage to god types is increased by 30%, and damage cap 5,000. Yes, it's quite insane damage to god type units, because you get 40% damage plus another 30% damage, and more damage cap, but it's not the best. I mean, yes, it's going to be his best weapon option, but if you're not against god type enemies, then you don't really need it. Well, you never need it, but it's not necessary. You're not going to get much of a benefit from this compared to other options if you're not against god type units. Now, if you're against a god type boss or a Shiftlord Possess, then yes, it can be useful, but you know, you're getting like over 70% damage from this weapon, which is insane against god types, but it might not be necessary. You probably don't need it, honestly. And then armor, strength, defense, mind, physical and magic damage taken minus 30%, skill damage plus 20%, strength plus 12%, battle start restore skills 3 SCT by 5 seconds. I wonder why it's 5 seconds. Probably because that's how much SCT he'll need to use his skill 3 at start battle, I don't know. But maybe his skill 3 requires 40 seconds and they gave 35 seconds in his kit. Maybe that's the case. That wouldn't surprise me, honestly. It's probably gonna be the case, but yeah, this armor is very strong because you get 30% damage mitigation from magic and physical damage, 20% skill damage, 12% strength, and some SCT. You also get 10 resistance to ice and earth, and some blind resistance as well. I think this is the best PvP choice if I were to pick one, because this is a PvP unit, PvP focused unit. I would consider the armor more than the weapon, because the armor has, you know, more useful effects on it, I think, for PvP. You got 30% damage mitigation, 20% skill damage, 12% strength, and some ST for your skill 3, which isn't too much, but it's something. And you also get ice resistance, which you probably don't need it, honestly, but it's a very good armor, and a very good spear, but you don't need them. There are other options, like you could use the gold plates, which is still a very strong one, and the best free-to-play accessible one, which I would probably recommend using instead. And you also got other spears. I'm going to have a look at other spear options in a bit, because I'm not 100% sure what we have available for spears, but I know there's a couple of them. I don't think there's anything crazy though. I'll have to have a look at that later on. But yeah, don't need any of these paid equipments. If you were to pick one, probably get the armor, because this is more useful for PvP, and he is a PvP focused unit. This would be better for PvE content, but you don't need any of them. You can honestly just ignore them, because he is a Descent of Heroes unit, and these paid equipments will be available in a long time, but they're at least going to be more accessible in the future at some point, probably in like a year or so, but it'll happen eventually. Usually it's 6 months. So yeah, that's everything about this unit, I think. Judecca looks pretty cool. I do want to do a few summons today, but based on everything I've seen so far, he is more of a PvP unit, and his PvE potential isn't that good. He isn't going to be that useful in PvE content, so for that reason, I don't want to pull too much on this banner because it's mostly a PvP banner, and I find those less interesting. So I'm gonna at least do lap 1 and hope we get something, because it would be very nice to get both of them and try them out in PvP, but the smartest thing to do would be to save for the Brave Frontier collab coming up next month. That's the smartest thing to do, and I don't think I should pull that much on this banner, even though I like Judecca a lot as a unit. He's a very cool unit. I would like to have him for sure. It's just he's a PvP unit, which is a bit disappointing to me. So his value isn't that high, and he requires more testing to actually see his PvP potential. So for all those things that I just said, I am going to do lap 1. Hope we get him or the Arc. Would be very nice if I can get them. I'm probably not going to get anything today because I got Yuda, which honestly I haven't used her at all. I haven't used her for anything yet, which I should, because I know she's decent, but her damage is lacking a lot. Even though she has high damage caps, you know. But yeah, I'm gonna at least do lap 1. I'll do this paid single pool as well. Maybe we can get something today. We probably won't. I'm not gonna expect anything at all. It's probably not gonna be anything. We're probably not gonna get anything today. I'll just skip it unless there's a gold. There is a gold, but it's probably just gonna stay gold. But that would be funny if it was the unit right away, immediately. But it's not. It's just, well, that's a weird start to the day, isn't it? That's like the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Well, 1,000 free crystals for me, hooray. Free crystals, baby. More saving crystals. Wow. That could have been Judecca and that would have been hilarious. That would have been the easiest pull of my life, but no, it's not going to be that easy, of course. The Arc would have been even better, but whatever. I'm not going to complain about that. I mean, I want to, but not going to be anything in that one. Yeah, Moana's kind of useless, though. Like, I'm never going to use her, ever. She's not going to get any use from me at all in the slightest. Zero use. She's just going to get to level 100 and be 1,000 free crystals, basically. And that's it. Zekis with a blue is probably nothing in here either. I'll skip that one. Yeah. Of course. Can we at least get one more red, possibly, out of one of these two? I would like Judecca, because he looks pretty cool. But I'm gonna prove people wrong. People think I can't stop pulling and I don't have any, you know... Okay, that was weird that 2 people showed up. Can you be a red something? No, it's just an Adele. There is a red. Any extra animation? No, it's probably a dupe then. Probably a dupe. I'm gonna guess a dupe. Is it a dupe? No? Is that... Judecca, please. Oh... Okay, well, I mean... great. Amazing. My luck recently has been so good. I don't know what to say. You can hate me all you want. I would do the same. But... Demon Lord Judecca-Samekh, if death is my fate, then until its limit comes into sight, I will not pause. It is by the drum of my own heart that I shall live. Yeah, I know the luck lately has been very good. I don't know why. I managed to get Yuda and Judecca from the step banner. Lap 1, which is pretty insane. It's quite insane. I'll be honest. This doesn't usually happen to me. Usually, I get terrible luck, but I'm worried now, because here's the issue, right? I'm not going to complain. I'm not complaining, but I just want to point out something really quickly. These were units that I didn't plan to pull that much for anyways, okay? That's the thing, and I'm worried that I'm using all my luck too quickly, and by the time Brave Frontier collabs comes out, I'm going to have terrible luck. That's what I'm worried about. Is it a must pull? No, it's not. You can skip this unit if you don't care about PvP. It's an easy skip. Because his PvE potential is quite bad. His PvE is not that good. It can be usable with a skill 3, but he needs more PvP testing, right? So, just save, I would say. But he is a cool unit. We still have a free temple right here. Can we please get the Ark right now? That would be the best thing ever if I get this right now. Because this pairs with him perfectly. And I would love to get this with him too. It will be amazing. I don't need it, but I would very much like to have it with him because it would be awesome, it would be amazing, but it's probably not going to happen. Come on. A beach. There's a red in here somewhere. There's a guaranteed red in here. Okay. There's hope. It's not very much. It's a beach. I'm going to have to say that most of the time I get a beach, it's not good. Well, let's just see what it is, okay? I'm not gonna comment on it until I see what it is. Yeah, beach is only dupes. That's usually what happens to me as well. Yeah, it's probably a dupe. Just turn. Yeah. Beach is 90% of the time dupes is a beach. Well, I can't complain. Even though I want the Ark, I'm not gonna complain because that was amazing. It was really good. Lords of Demonium would be very nice to have. But obviously I don't chase for UR arcs like this. It's not worth doing. But having things like Spear Giga Boost and Thunder Mega Drive and the trait and the Arcade Forward would be nice. I'm not going to be pulling it for it though. I'm going to be sensible. I'm not going to pull any more on this banner because it's not. I don't need to. Yeah, getting Judecca is great. I'm super happy with that because he's a cool unit that I wanted to try out, and I do like Judecca because his design is very good. So I'm happy with that at least, and I do feel like I'm gonna have to test him out in PvP now. But the question is, do I get his paid equipment? Because like I already have 11 credentials, so I might get one of his paid equipments. I think I know what I'm gonna do. I think my plan is gonna be wait and see on his performance first of all, and if it turns out that he's very strong, then at that point I'm probably gonna get his armor. I think that's the plan. Is I'm probably gonna get his paid armor only if his, performance in PvP ends up being very strong. So I'm gonna wait a little bit. I'm not gonna get any of these today because it could just be a waste if he ends up being kind of average for a PvP unit, but we'll have to wait and see. I would like this armor, but I'm only going to get it if he ends up being a very strong PvP unit. See, I have gotten more sensible than I used to be. I used to be like, I want this now, I'm getting this now, but I don't need to. It's best to wait for other people to do it, right? Other people can spend the money first and do the testing, so then I can be like, oh, okay, I don't need it, so I can just ignore it completely. Okay, well, let's move over to Steam. We do have some things we need to do after that. My luck recently has been insane. I don't know what to say. It's been crazy, which is good. But I'm just worried that it's not going to last, and it never lasts. Would I share PvP builds? Well, I know other players are going to get around to doing that, so there's probably going to be other players that are going to be doing that before I can. So, if you check the official Last Cloudia Discord, and keep checking the PvP chats and whatever, then there's probably going to be someone making a guide or a build for him at some point, I think. But I would just recommend go for a generic damage dealer type build, probably, but I do want to go over some recommended equipment options and what you kind of want to be using for him about now. You know what the good thing about this is? That's hilarious to me. I don't want to brag, but I got 2 units, meaning that's going to give me 2,000 crystals back. So, and I only spent 700 paid crystals, well 800, I only spent 800 paid crystals for that. Which I think is kind of insane, if you ask me. It's insane. That's crazy. But yeah, what I want to do now, what I want to do is start building him a little bit. I want to try him out in some PvE stages just to see his like damage modifiers. I'll start building him a little bit right now with just unlocking skills, and then I will go over equipment options as well after that. I did get the Grug recently, Shifter Grug, and I also got Maja literally the other day. I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. I got Maja from free pools, so I have been able to get some older units I didn't have recently, which is nice to see. And where's Moana? She's the Booba bait unit that you should never pull for. That she is kind of useless, but there she is at least. She could be on a home screen if I really wanted to. Best unit selector for new player, yeah. I covered that earlier. Basically, that's cool. That's very cool. Spirit Maiden Sarah, if you don't have a must have. Yeah, that's just gay. But this is very cool. I love this one. That's just gay. This one's very cool. Green, I'm not really a fan of green. I like orange. This is my favorite. If I was, I love this one. This one, this one looks so good. I like this one so much. I don't know why. It's like turns him in. Flame is very cool. Okay. Give you a rainbow potion. Ultra rainbow crystone. Spirit Maiden Sarah. Second option is Civil Society Linus. Third option, Archbeing Melee or Dark Ruto. And that's kind of it. I think there might have been one more in there somewhere. What ward does he have? I have to know. 500 damage cap. Isn't that lower than normal? Isn't it? No, that's because it's thunder, not because it's a weapon equip. Weapon equip wards are like 800, but that's still pretty nice. Unfortunately, not many thunder damage dealers, but okay. Yeah, Dark Holy Knight Ruto for PvP only. Only if you care about PvP. If you don't care about PvP at all, then just ignore him. You don't need him because he's useless in PvE content. But if you want to, you know, try and rank a bit higher in arena or gear battles, then Ruto is recommended. Even at low SC investment, he's still useful because he can be immune to damage. Look how much strength he has already. Dark Ruto versus Melzer. Here's the debates that people like to bring up very often. Ruto or Melzer? I know Melzer is... Here's the thing. They're a bit different. Melzer's tankier than Ruto and easier to build than Ruto. But Ruto can be immune to damage for 10 seconds and allows the entire team to take 40% less damage. So my preference is Ruto. I prefer Ruto because he can support and be immune to damage for 10 seconds. Melzer could just die in the first 2 seconds. So that's why I prefer Ruto. I'm not saying that Ruto's better, I'm just saying I prefer Ruto. Because he's more useful. Yes, even Ruto at 100 SC, it doesn't matter how much SC he has. He's still going to be useful. No matter what SC he has. We should be able to unlock everything in here unless I don't have books made yet. It should be fine. There we go. Yeah, because I'll show you something. My Ruto, I never gave him God Relic Prisms. Mine is... Actually, I lied. I did give him God Relic Prisms. He's at plus 12 for some reason. I don't know why he's at plus 12. Actually, I know why. Some events, we got some dupes. Some of his prisms were from events. There was like Valentine, we got male prisms, stuff like that. So, even at 100 SC, it can be useful because nullify damage, physical magic damage, 10 seconds. That's all you need. And that is probably the counter to Judecca, honestly. And the, my favourite bit is... My favourite one about this unit is Rueful Shield. Other allies take 40% less damage. I like this one because all other allies take 40% less damage, and the fact that he takes more damage doesn't matter because he can't take damage anyways. It's hilarious. It is hilarious. Anyways, let's get back to this unit. Stop talking about Ruto for now. Look how much strength he has already. 3,700. I don't even have any weapons on right now. And he's at base SC, just these level 100, and he's already got 3,700 strength. That's quite crazy to me. I think it's because of that one skill that gives 100% strength. Right there, 100% strength. So, yeah. I'm going to go over some recommended equipment options now, just to see some options. Because I'm not entirely sure how many spears we have. Spears are not very common, so we don't get many spear options. We don't have many spear weapons in this game. I mean, try it out. All I say is, the team sounds like it could work, but I just recommend to try it out to see if it can actually work. Even if you have a team that sounds good, the builds matter more. That's the thing, is SC investment, limited skills, builds, arts matter more, and equipment matter more than the actual team itself. Sometimes. But yeah, so recommended equipments. He must have a spear in basically every scenario, because trait 2, when only one spear is equipped, thunder damage cap, you know, and he's got this trait requires only one weapon equipped as well, and he's got spear boost as well as kits. When only one weapon is equipped as one spear, so another effect right there. Absolutely zero reason to use anything that isn't a spear. You must have a spear. Even if your spear is terrible, it's going to be better than anything else, any other weapon that you have. So let's have a look at some spear options. There are not many spears. Currently I've got 30. There might be some spears that I haven't made Godforge yet. So there might be some that I'm missing from here. And there might be some from like the equipment stages and whatever that I don't have yet. But let's just have a look at what I have available for now. So he is a thunder damage dealer. This one could be quite funny because chance for 150% damage and damage cap, and it gives more crit rates. You know why I think this could be hilarious? Is because this could activate at the same time as Instant Strike 2. That would be hilarious. That would be so funny if that could happen. But it is just, basically, that's only if you're relying on critical hits. But it would just be so funny if you could do that, and they would both activate at the same time. It would be so funny. I would love to see that happen. Yeah, it would be so funny. Yeah, this would be great for PvP. This one also quite nice. Thunder skill damage. Damage and damage cap to enemies in Fate on Break. It's not the best, but it's something at least. Those are kind of the best ones I have. But I think there are some other ones down here. Damage to soldier and sorcerer type enemies. Physical damage. This one's okay because it gives anti-soldier and sniper type effect, but I honestly wouldn't use it because just using a weapon for those slayers probably not worth it, honestly. Don't need it. Dragoon Spike. It's got the word goon in it. Had to point that out. SCT speed, more critical rate when an enemy is airborne. Could be nice, honestly. And it's a thunder spear, so that's nice. And I don't really have anything else. I know there's going to be more Godforged spears that I don't have made yet. I'm going to have a look in a bit. I know there is one. I think there's one that I know of that I don't have, which I should make probably. I'll have a look. But for now, I'm probably going to use this one just because it gives thunder skill damage. If you have this one, this would probably be my recommendation for PvP, maybe. Because crit rates and the chance for 150% damage could be quite strong. So I would consider that one. And for armor, I don't think he needs clothes, or I don't think it matters if he has armor or clothes, right? I don't remember seeing anything in his kit that requires an armor or requires clothes. So because of that, you could use an armor or clothes, it doesn't really matter. This one, the Shine Plate, is pretty nice. It gives a mitigation, physical damage mitigation, chance to nullify physical damage is always an amazing one. We do have more options now. If you want him to be a damage dealer, then clothes are probably the best option, like Bravery Raiments. Yeah, I wonder if he can... He's definitely going to tank Magius, but I really like these Demonian units. They are very cool design. This one's going to be quite nice, even gives some light resistance. I think light resistance is actually going to matter because Logzaeus. This one is decent, but not the best. Probably not that one. Second trait requires armor. Yeah, but here's the thing, right? Here's the thing that I don't like about this game. When it says armor equipped, right? When it says you have armor equipped, does it mean that you need to have armor equipment type or any armor? Answer me that question. Nobody knows the answer to that question. Only Adis knows, and when Adis decides. But in most cases, when it says armor is equipped, when you have an armor, usually that means any armor at all. So it doesn't have to be specifically an armor. It can be clothes or a robe, because that is still an armor and not an armor, you know. It's stupid. I wish they worded it differently. What could they could call this, like, I don't know, call these like breastplates or something to make it differentiate them differently from, make them different wording, something to make it clearer of exactly what it is, because like that's the only thing I don't like, right? So I'm gonna assume that clothes are gonna count, right? Yeah, attire or something. Yeah, they could do that when you're equipped with any attire. That is what they should. They should rename armor to attire instead. That's what they should do. And then any form of armor, when armor is equipped, should be when any attire is equipped. That's what they should do. But they don't. It's probably just translation stuff that they've never changed, but it still annoys me because it gets confusing sometimes. So let's continue having a look at some other options. I did max this out recently for some reason. I was crazy enough to do that. Don't ask why. It was for Benimaru, I think. This one, skill damage, could be good for PvE, honestly. This one, from an event recently, from a collab event, is semi-decent. Honestly, I'm probably going to go for this for now, because it's, you know, the easiest one to put on. But there are quite a few options, honestly. There's a good amount of options, I think. Any armor or clothes would be fine. For PvP, you're looking for something that will give damage and mitigation, ideally, because he is a bruiser type unit and he is a close range bruiser unit. So because of that, mitigation does help quite a bit. So I'm going to go with this for the PvE showcase. PvP would be slightly different with this spear probably, and that could work still. Now accessories is going to be a bit more difficult because he's a thunder damage dealer which uses a spear, so we have less options for that compared to other units. This will still give skill damage even though you don't have a sword. You'll miss out on the movement speed, but you still get the skill damage. I know there's going to be some good ones towards the bottom, but 3-jeweled amulet, always amazing. Weakness damage and anti-type damage going to be very strong, for sure. Skill attack damage. This one's great because thunder attack damage and take less physical damage. Also get some ice resistance. It's not much, but it's something. This banner seems generous. Bull crap. That's just... people have been getting lucky, okay? I wish I could get the UR arc, but I'm not pulling for it. This one's quite solid. I'm probably going to use that one, honestly. You're just trying to persuade me to pull for the UR arc. It's not going to happen. It's really not going to happen. I know. But I also got Yuda in like the exact same amount, so this one's nice. Skill, damage, strength, skill 3 SET, critical rate, damage cap, that's for PvE content though. Physical and counter damage taken. This one's quite nice because stun, curse resistance, take less damage, also gives some good attribute resistance as well, so that one could be quite nice for PvP. One thing that I am just thinking about, that I remember, he doesn't nullify feint, which sucks. Because of that, he might want to have this, because it won't feint, so he might need that, honestly. And it also gives thunder damage. I don't know why I forgot about that. Why did I forget about that? Yeah, this is basically going to be a must. Use it. Stormy is too grindy. I can't be bothered. It's so boring. I got like almost done with this, and I was like, can't be bothered. It's too much work. I want to play other games. You can't really AFK if it's multiplayer. I mean, yeah, you can. Fine, I'll start farming it, and using Shiflog Zeus. I'll use a tanky Shiflog Zeus, and I'll start farming it a bit more if I can be bothered, but there's no like double drops or anything going on right now, so I don't have much motivation to go for it right now. But yeah, this is a must on this unit because he can feint. He doesn't have Nullify Feint in his kit, and he's a Thunder damage dealer, so this is almost a must-have on this unit because he's a Bruiser type unit. Nullifying Feint is going to be quite important. So I'd probably go for something like this. These two equipment seem quite strong. Let's just have a quick look at if there's anything else down here. Yeah, I should do that. Scale damage, this one's always great. Stun and illness resistance. But I'm going to go with this for now. This seems pretty decent, honestly. If you don't have any of these, there are some other options like I showed. We'll just go for anything that's physical damage or thunder damage. Damage taken. Take less damage is going to be useful. Honestly, it doesn't need magic damage mitigation, really. Unless you're up against a mage that isn't Amelia, but no one's using a mage in PvP that isn't Amelia right now. Unless it's Linus, rarely. I don't think I have a good crest for Judecca, apart from a generic damage mitigation clothes or armor crest. I don't have any other ones for spear equipped, or thunder damage. Strength, spear boosts. You know what? Maybe I should start focusing on this one now. Because I've got strength already. I could just get this up to 20% and then re-roll this one for a ideally a clothes or armor boost mitigation, something like that. Everyone's pulling stuff today, this is crazy. Also, Jala gives ice resistance. So, yeah. Why the bloody hell's it on Barcelo? I don't know. I got no clue. Thunder damage, weak point, machine. That was for Suzaku. There's cloves, I could use that one. Weak point boost, strength, curse resistance could be. You could honestly use that because hitting weakness is going to be quite easy with this unit, I think. Yeah, I don't really have any other ones, but I'm just checking the resistances and stuff. Yeah, so you're probably going to be using a Jala one, Thunderbird. You're probably going to be using one of these. I'm going to go with this for now because spear boost strength, but I do like to do the showcases without a crest just to make it fair because not everyone's going to have those yet. So I'm going to just go with this for now. And I do want to try him out. I am going to try him out in the unit test play quest first, and then I'll try him out a little bit in the story. Already got 5,000 strength, which is quite nice. That's a lot of strength. So let me guess. Yeah. Annihilating Divine Soldiers. Yeah, I haven't done all of the event yet. I did start it off. Boxes without keys. I mean, the keys didn't really matter much anyways, since you could trade for them before, but okay. It depends on how easy you can get those boxes. Let's just awaken a few times and we'll go into the unit test play quest and try them out. In theory, you could infinite farm, but in practice, doesn't actually work out like that because the drop rate is so small. And I farmed an event recently like a few weeks ago or a month ago or something. It was a recent event that I farmed a bunch, and I got like maybe 4 God Relic Prism Shards, even though I used like over 1,000 orb recoveries. It's not very good drop rates. It's terrible drop rates, but it's better than nothing, I suppose. So almost 6,000 strength is quite crazy. I'm gonna try him out in some story stages to try to see his damage and stuff a bit later on. I do want to try him out in the unit test play quest first of all, to go over his skills and stuff and show those off first. So let's do that. 9,000 strength already is quite insane. 60 ice resistance is also quite insane. He's gonna have no problems with Amelia. It's quite funny. And the paid armor does give more ice resistance too. Of course, you're gonna have paid equipment, space skills. Great, and of course they've got the UR arc as well. This will give more damage cap and damage and stuff, so let's try him out in here. So what I want to do is go over each of his skills. We're probably not going to spend too much time here because he's not a PvE focused unit. He's not going to do much in here. His only notable skill is skill 3. I do want to have a look at the other animations just to see his animations for PvP and how they work. 14,000 strength. He does have a close range normal attack, which is expected. Skill 1. That is very fast. It is very fast. It reminds me of the Attack on Titan. What I think what was it? Yeah, Attack on Titan collab, right? Where Levi and those units had insane speed. It reminds me of that. They had like the gas buffs and stuff. It reminds me of that. Being insanely quick. Now, you can see these skills are, at least the skill 1 is kind of, think more, get your mindset out of PvE content and start thinking about, put your PvP cap on. That's what I recommend. So it does 3 hits, and it does launch the enemy, which does matter. It's so quick. It's so fast. He's so speedy. Yeah, you can see the area on this is super tiny. Like, it's not going to snipe anyone with this. But the positive thing is it can launch enemies and push them back. If it would reset the enemy back to the middle, it can launch the enemy back. Like, it launched them into the air and back, so it is quite nice. And then the skill 2, I think the skill 2 could be quite nice. Because it does that, it you know, throws the enemy. I think because this skill 1 can push the enemy back quite a bit, you could like manage to hit the enemy's back lines potentially. Because you're pushing the enemy into like the support units, possibly. You can also see this skill 2 is a very small range. You're not going to be sniping anyone with this, you're not going to be hitting multiple enemies with this. And it's not very quick. You're mostly going to be thinking about PvP. And I believe this should activate backstab at least once. Because the enemy is aiming this way, right? They're facing this way. Use a skill. Now they're facing this way. So it definitely would have activated backstab at least once, and probably only on one of those hits. So skill 2 could hit quite hard, because it can launch the enemy in the air, and also, in theory, activate backstab at least once. So if you could get the perfect hits, where you get you activate skill 2, it activates sky high and backstab, and a critical hit, and instant strike 2, and the equipment that also has 100% more damage. If all of those activate at the same time, you're just going to one-hit anything. But it's just not going to happen. You missed entirely. How do you miss? Just don't tell me that he can just like flop and miss, because that's gonna be terrible if that's the case. Okay, well there's a skill 1 and skill 2 at least. Not that good, I have to say so. They're quite bad, but for PvP they might be okay, because this does have some usefulness with being able to push the enemy back and launch the enemy in the air if they don't have flinch resistance, which honestly most units do have flinch resistance. It's mostly going to be against tanks where it matters. Skill 2 could be quite nice. Yeah, I'll try special out in a bit. Now his skill 3 is going to be his main skill. This is the one you're going to be using in PvE content, if you plan to use him there. It's quite good. 40 hits because the trait 1 gives extra 20 hits, and it will use health to do that as well. It does teleport behind the enemy, which is quite nice. That means the first hit of this is going to activate backstab and surprise attack as well. So backstab, surprise attack skill is going to be quite useful for damage on this unit, because this can activate it at least once, and this will activate it at least once. Probably only once, but still. I did look at recommended equipments recently. You could check that after the stream if you like. Now, one thing I want to point out with the skill 3 is you can spam it quite decently. It's quite nice. You can spam it quite quickly. So I think the DPS are going to be solid enough to be usable, but not crazy. If you just started, just push story as much as you can, okay? And then start worrying about more endgame equipment later. Certain equipments like bravery raiments can be gotten quite easily. So there's one thing I want to point out with this skill 3, right? You can use the second skill 3 before the first skill 3 is finished. So it's still the attack, those like fists that come out, those are the extra attacks, right? And he can use another skill 3 before it's finished, or any other skill he can use it before the skill 3 is finished, which is quite nice. So I do like that about the skill 3. And honestly, it's not bad. It's quite decent, but it's not going to be on the same level as the current best damage dealers in the game. It's not going to come close at all. But it's nice to see that his DPS could be solid. On one of his skills at least. The skill 1 and skill 2 are garbage for DPS, they're just terrible. But the skill 3, quite nice. I do think it's going to be good. I do want to try his special out as well. Try comboing his skills together. See if that matters, it probably doesn't. Also charisma. Basically just a bully. He's a big bully. Judecca's a big bully. He stole my lunch money and stuff, because he's literally just throwing... He's literally just a bully. He punches you. With his skill 3 just punches you many times. His skill 2 just, you know, throws you over there. And then his skill 1 just, you know, launches you in the air like that. He's just a bully. Let's use his special now. I use Charisma. And then I use his special to try that out. I think it does quite a good amount of damage. And it's pretty cool. It's not bad. I think that's like 50 mil or something. Yeah. 40 million. Single target. Special. It's not bad, because you could increase that with arcs and such. Increase crit rate, give certain arcs that you could be quite nice. Yeah. So looks quite cool, but skill 1 and skill 2 are not going to be very good for PvE content. PvP though could be interesting. I'm just a bit worried about these skills in PvP because it doesn't seem like they have a wide area. So I don't think he's going to be that good at being able to, you know, hit multiple enemies. Unless his skill 3 can somehow punch an enemy in the face randomly. If that can happen, that'd be hilarious, and I'm all for it. That would be amazing, but probably not the case. Skill 2, throwing the enemy. Skill 1, launching the enemy and pushing them back. I feel like they could be useful, right? Yeah, he could be fun, but it doesn't matter when the DPS of the skill 1 and skill 2 are terrible, because you're never going to use them in PvE content. But in PvP, it is going to matter there, so I think they're going to be decent skills for PvP. We're going to have to wait and see on his actual, you know, damage modifiers and how he works there, but it is nice to see that he has at least one skill that's usable for PvE content. Yeah, I know it looks fun, and it looks like the new shiny thing that you want, but trust me, you don't need it. you don't need it. I do want to try him out now though. So let's teach him Honey Elixir, and then try him out in a couple of stages with base kits. Skill 3 spam is decent DPS, yes, but it's not crazy. It's about between 6 million and 7 million, and I'm not joking when I say that. Nobody's joking. I'm serious. It's between, let's say, 6.5 and 7. That's probably right. Yeah, let's just teach you Honey Elixir, and then we'll try him out in story stages a little bit with base kit, just to get a good idea on his performance at a base level, because that does give him a good idea of what they could potentially be once they're fully built. And I'm also missing 6th enhanced skills. I know there's a lot of damage in 6th enhanced. Yeah, it's good enough is a thing, but he's a single wheel damage dealer, and it's definitely going to get power crept very quickly, and is already power crept by better units, is the problem. But he might work he might be pretty good against Kraken boss, because we haven't had a up-to-date DPS Thunder unit until now, and this boss is weak to Thunder, so he might work in here, possibly. I don't think it's going to be enough DPS to beat high difficulty, and Arc is probably still going to be better, because you can just put on Trishula and it doesn't matter, right? So, I don't know. I think he could work there, but not the best option when you can just put Trishula on Arc. If you can get that to work anyways. So let's just go with the normal stage that we always do, because I like to do that. And give him Honey Elixir and just see what it's like. In theory, he should hit quite hard. He doesn't have Slayer. So, because he's missing Slayer damage, maybe he won't hit damage cap, but he should hit damage cap because they're so weak, so he's going to hit damage cap. I mean, without Slayers... well, there is a bit of a wider area than I thought, initially. So that's something. Yes, current best Thunder damage dealer, but that's a very low bar to reach, so there's no surprise there. Let me just do that again. If I just use a skill 3. I kind of want to see what his range is of the skill 3. If I hit you, will it hit the boss? Not from that distance, at least. Okay. Yeah, I know who to go against right now. The perfect boss to go against is... he's gonna destroy Prefect of God Zero. Just utterly destroy him entirely. No competition whatsoever. Absolutely none. I still haven't done the story yet, I know. Don't shout at me, I should be doing it. I've just been kind of saving it and playing other stuff at the moment, but it's fine, I'll do it eventually. In theory, this should be very easy, like insanely easy. I know it's old stage at this point, but still. The special attack is going to do hardly any damage because Judecca has his buff active, which takes 80% less damage. And also, he's got very high ice resistance. So, yes, they're not going to do very much. And you're obviously going to hit damage cap because he's got Slayer and weakness. I don't like the skill 2 because it just misses way too often. Like, you saw that. The enemy just moves, and the skill 2 missed entirely. So, I feel like the skill 2 is going to be an issue. Like, in PvP, it's going to miss too often. That's what I feel like is going to happen. Okay, you just teleport out of the way. Sure. He makes this stage just very easy. Yeah, it's going to be annoying when the skill 2 misses entirely. I need to kill you now. I know I could just leave, but I want to at least prove to you that base kit is all you need. to beat this stage. Yeah. I should probably go to a different stage, but I don't know any other different stages. He's not going to do much against human-type enemies with this basic build. I'm just going to have a look at some stages real quick and see if there's something I can do. Go away. I think I just forgot about this. Will he be able to dethrone Logzeus? Well, no. Because Logzeus can hit multiple enemies, right? And he can even stay at the back and... Let me just see how this does. For science. It's probably going to be bad, but... we'll see. Judecca's definitely going to win against a Logzeus if they were 1 versus 1, right? But... yeah, they're definitely not going to win against this, probably, because it's just base builds. It's not going to work. And I can't even use this, it won't let me. Okay, fine. I'll use that. Tanks do matter, yeah, but... I'm still hitting damage cap, by the way. And this boss has 50 thunder resistance. But I'm still hitting damage cap because it's a god-type enemy. Oh, that skill 3 still hits, even though it missed, it still... Obviously I'm gonna die, but this is for science. Interesting. Interesting, why? Oh yeah, this is the stage that you can't actually die in, isn't it? Yeah. It's one of those stages. But still. It's hitting damage cap already against god-type enemies. God enemies stand no chance. Obviously I'm gonna die here, but... huh. It's interesting anyways. Now would be a perfect time for Goddess Kiss, it really would. But considering he's just base kit is quite good. But this is like a perfect matchup for him. God type enemy. And now he's gonna die. Yeah. But, you know, based on what I've seen there, the fact that he can go that far with literally just level 100 builds against a god type enemy is quite funny to me. He's going to make any god type boss quite easy. Unfortunately, there are no god types in Histomia, so he's not really going to work there, I don't think. I mean, he might work, but Logzeus is still going to be better. Interesting. Well, I think I've done all the testing I wanted to, but I kind of want to test one more thing with just like a... where's... yeah, this team. Let me just try him. Let me go against Labref again. Labby. Let's fight Labby again. But with a full supportive team again with damage caps and stuff and just see how fast I can clear the stage for science, because I like saying that. I think for science is my catchphrase now. It has to be. What other arc could be a good option for damage caps? It's probably fine. Because he doesn't actually hit weakness, he's definitely going to hit damage cap very easily. So, I suppose now is the time to use a crest. Just because. And now we'll go against that boss again and try and clear it as fast as I can. With Honey Elixir. Yeah, but... Forge of Fatus doesn't stack with Susanoo because they both give skill damage and caps, so this gives skill damage cap, so it's not going to stack with it. I'm just going to go with that and go against that boss again, if I remember where it is. And we'll just try and clear it as fast as we can. Obviously, you can't clear the first one, so... It's still level 100, by the way. This is just with a team now, which he's going to hit damage cap very easily. I want to spam his skill 3 just to show you how good his skill 3 can be. So, ignore the first phase, you don't need to do anything here, I think. Well, I might as well do something, right? I wish I was faster at playing on a computer. Probably best to just wait for the second stage. Yeah, you can't die in this one anyways. Wait for it. And now we'll do it. Might as well use that for some more damage caps. And then this should be physical damage caps. Not going to be much, but something. So I'm just going to spam skill 3 as much as I can. Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, kind of expected that, considering it's a basic build. He's going to be dying, but oh well. You know, it's not too bad DPS for a skill 3 spam. Obviously I could beat that, but I just wanted to show you what his skill 3 can do. This is like the most ideal, perfect way that you'll be using him, is spamming his skill 3 against a God type boss, having a SAT battery unit like Lena with Honey Elixir. It's going to be quite solid. With Judecca, I think it's going to be quite good. Now he's got 7,000 strength. Level 100, 7,000 strength. It's quite insane. It really is. That's because of this crest. Yeah. He's crazy. He does have some potential. Yeah, Silver Society Lenius is still amazing. You can always check tier list, he's still quite good, quite useful. I still use him in raid bosses and one Battleground Simulator boss. Isn't used as much as he used to, but still useful. I think that's everything I wanted to show off with this unit for the moment. Yes, I could spend time to fully build him and try him out in arena and stuff, but that would take a long time, and I usually like to do that in my own time and test them out. Yeah, it's because this arc skill and those two arc skills and Lelouch as well. Well, I don't quite remember the ratings, I'll have to check, but I do help with input with the tier list. And yeah, she's at 9.3, which I can explain a little bit of why she's below Lenius. Even though I said she's better than Lenius, I didn't lie. What I meant specifically was her damage potential as a mage is better than Lenius. That's a fact. But Lenius is slightly more useful and provides more to your accounts than Judecca, because Judecca lacks damage, and even though she has a lot of damage cap and can do a bunch of damage, that's all she is a damage dealer. She doesn't provide much utility apart from magic damage and her anima, while Lenius can do good PvP damage as well as have a unique anima that reduces resistance, which can arguably be more useful in some situations, and charges allies special gauge quicker because double hits magic charges special gauge quite quickly, especially against multiple enemies. And one last thing is his thunder magic build on him with the rare arc that can allow thunder magic to stun is a very good build for certain endgame bosses. So that's kind of why Lenius rates 0.1 higher than Judecca, because he just has more utility up for your account overall, so he has slightly more value. But Judecca's still the better mage as a damage dealer. So there's kind of a difference there, you know. Your value of what the unit provides to your account is what the tier list is rating them off of, not their actual, you know, just... If it's just a damage dealer, they're less likely to rate as high unless they're game breaking, so... And it depends on where they're used in what content, that kind of thing, so... It kind of gives you an idea of why she was at 9.3. You don't need her, no one needs her, honestly. It's been decided that Judecca is a bit underwhelming for most players, especially endgame players find her a bit underwhelming because her actual damage modifiers are quite low, so in PvP she doesn't work at all. We've tried her there, she's garbage in PvP unfortunately, and Lenius having slightly better value means Judecca is mostly an unnecessary unit that you don't need to have in the slightest, so she's an easy skip for basically every player, because Silver Society Lenius is quite easily accessible now, because you can even get him from a ticket, and for the players that already have Lenius, you don't need Judecca, and nobody really needs Judecca, but I am personally going to be using her in some content. She's still a good unit. She's not bad, it's just not considered a must-have, and you've got to value your crystals a lot more than stuff like this, right? Things that are unnecessary could be fun and can have some use, 100%, but there are more valuable things to be pulling for. That's right, that's why she isn't considered worth pulling for, because we've got better options available. Like Lenius, we've got Lenius available, and she just isn't worth investing many crystals in. But if you get her from like a single pull, yeah, that's great, she's going to be good, she's going to be useful, but not worth pitying, that's the thing. if you have her, she's nice to have and useful, but not worth pulling just to try to get her. That's like the different things. Yeah, well, it's still a decent banner. I suppose I do want to wrap up everything here and talk about all the current banners and what you should be pulling on and stuff, and about a bit more about Judecca and everything. So I do want to finish off everything here. So we'll start off the conclusion by saying Judecca seems like quite an interesting unit. I love his design. That's my best thing about this unit. I love this unit's design, and it's definitely one of my more favourite unit designs in this game, because he just looks very cool, and he has giant wings, and I'm a fan of wings. Don't ask why, that's just... It's not a fetish, don't worry, it's just I like it, it looks cool, that's it, that's the only reason. But anyways, he's a cool unit. He's mostly a PvP unit, unfortunately. But outside of PvP, his DPS on his skill 3 is solid enough to be usable. But if you already have a shift arc and you don't care about PvP at all, then he's kind of, you know, not needed at all. So that's the problem. Is yes, he's going to be a good unit, kind of like Yuda, where they're useful units, but they're not going to be game-changing. So yes, he's going to be a fun unit and a cool unit to have, but not a necessary unit by any means. I would argue that both anniversary units are more useful than these two units that we have right here. Shift Arc being an amazing PvE DPS unit, and Shift Leonardo is quite good too. I personally like Shift Leonardo because I use him in guild battles, and he's going to be quite nice for long term, I think. But the thing with both of these units that they don't have is long-term viability, and that is the most important thing. Is so far they just seem like damage dealers that don't provide much to the team. Maybe Judecca could be a bit different because he's a PvP unit and you have no idea how their performance are going to be until they're tested and how long they're going to last. I have no idea. But they are just damage dealers at the end of the day, and they don't really provide much to your account because they're not game-changing damage dealers like Shift Arc is. So because of that, they don't have as much value as some other units that we've just had. And because we know Brave Frontier collab is coming up in the next month, it's highly recommended to save for that, because it's best to save for limited collab banners instead of Descendant Furies banners. And these units will get a rerun in 3 months. So if you decided that you do want them, then in 3 months they'll come back. So you do have more opportunities to get these units in the future, but with collabs you don't get any other opportunities, because they could just collab once and never come back in many years, you never know. Like ReZero had one collab and it was like a 5-year break and had a rerun, so stuff like that can happen. That's why it's highly recommended to save for collabs. If you've come from other gacha games, then this game unfortunately has insanely strong collab units and skills that sometimes last a very long time. Kind of like Grand Summoners in a way, where most collab units, a lot of collab units are like top tier units and stuff, so it's best to save for that. So this banner is available for another 28 days, and I believe the next unit in 2 weeks is going to be the player's, user's choice, Lilibet shift. I think Lilibet's going to be next in 2 weeks, and honestly I don't really care about Lilibet, so I'm probably going to skip that Lilibet shift unless she ends up being unique and having some interesting supportive effects or something going on. We'll have to wait and see on that, but Lilibet's coming up probably in 2 weeks. If not 2 weeks, then 2 weeks after that. But let me just check. 2 weeks after that will be in June. So yeah, guaranteed in 2 weeks from now, on the 21st of May, is going to be the new shift Lilibet. 100%. Because on the timeline things coming up, the roadmap. It says popularity poll unit appears in May, so that means she's guaranteed to appear in 2 weeks from now. Yeah, of course I'll be here. I try to stream for every possible new unit release. That's kind of the main thing I do on this channel, is streaming every single new unit and kind of talking about how good they are and if they were pulling for and stuff like that, because that is quite important in gacha games like these. So we'll be here in 2 weeks for the Shift Lilibet. I wonder what she's going to be. I'm hoping she's not just a generic damage dealer, because if she is just a damage dealer, then it's an easy skip, and then you can save those crystals for Brave Frontier collab. So let's wait and see what she provides first, because we're going to have to wait 2 weeks for that. Out of the current banners, there isn't really much I recommend to pull on right now unless you're literally just starting, but I'm going to assume most players started in the anniversary that we just had, because the anniversary is when they announced Brave Frontier collab and when there were a lot of promos and stuff going on. So I wouldn't expect there to be many newer players starting like right now, because it's not a good time to start right now, because there's not really any good promos going on. But the anniversary event is still on for the moment, so it's actually a decent time to start, considering we have all of these things going on right now. So I suppose if you're just starting, the best unit to get is probably, I don't know, it's tough because most of these currently are PvP units. Magus is a PvP unit mostly, and Judecca is a PvP unit, and Yuda is kind of unnecessary if you already have Civil Society Linus. So honestly, all of these units you don't need. Like, they're not game-breaking meta units, so you could just skip all of them. Shift Logzaeus is still better than all of these, and by that I mean more useful. So he rates higher than all of these because he has more value compared to all of these because of supported buffs and all that stuff. But yeah. Sure, well, if you're just a casual player that likes playing this game just for fun, then pull for whoever you like. I just like to, have fun with these units, try them out, and see how good they actually are. Because I like going in depth with these units to try them out and see, how they compare to other current units. And I take the stream as an opportunity to myself also realize how good the unit is and go through it properly. Will Logzaeus be able to kill Judecca? Well, here's the thing, is this is going to require testing, right? It's going to need testing, but I think Judecca is going to be able to survive when he has this buff active. But if Judecca doesn't have the buff active, then Logzaeus might be able to kill him in theory, but I'm not sure. Yeah, there aren't really any walkthroughs. There are some guides though, there's a lot of guides. When you know where to get the guides from, it becomes a lot easier. I'll have a look at the paid banners. Yeah, Xenobus is still probably the best one for Shift Logzaeus. The current paid banners I don't think are that crazy right now. I think I did check these the last stream, I don't remember. This one is... I don't think it has much. It does give trade ticket. I don't think this one's that crazy. I think I covered this one in the last stream. I think so. These are preferred units not held, so get a unit guaranteed that you don't have. I never recommend to do these unless you're missing a specific unit. Like, if you're missing Logzaeus, this one, or Spirit Manacera, or Ruto, if you're missing any of these three, if you're in this one specific scenario where you're missing these 3 units for whatever reason, and you have everyone else in this banner for some stupid reason, then it's a must pull on this banner, because 3,000 paid crystals to guarantee one of these 3 units are going to be amazing. But that's never going to happen for basically every single player in this game, right? Because in most cases you're going to have a bunch of garbage, useless units in here. So that's why it's recommended to not pull on these, because you're most likely going to get a unit you're never going to use. So Amelia depends. This banner's still quite good, honestly. Amelia depends. There are a lot of good arc options for Amelia. You could either make her a more of a supportive unit by just giving her Theopolis or something like that, or you could even give her Overnight Campout for the reduced ice resistance debuff to all enemies, or my personal favourite is Pomram, because when close to death, change enemy attack magic damage to MP for 5 seconds, so you don't take any damage for 5 seconds from magic. So against enemy Amelias, if your Amelia uses this, then she won't die from an enemy trait attack Amelia. She's still going to die from Celestia and stuff like that, but I personally like using that. And the Theopolis from Shiflog Zeus' banner is a very strong one. And the best arc for mages is Babalad. 45% magic damage. It says special terrain only, which is basically every single terrain, so it's always going to apply. It's very strong for Amelia, so that's kind of the best options. I think I'll leave it there for today. That's everything I wanted to cover. A very cool unit. I am going to do some testing with this guy over the next 2 weeks. I don't know how much I'm going to be playing over the next 2 weeks. I think I'm going to play a bit more over the next 2 weeks, because I do want to try to grind some of these Histomia bosses to get the equipment, and maybe I do want to have a look at some Godforge equipments that I don't have yet, just to see if there's any options for Judecca. I was thinking of this one, but it only gives 15% physical damage, so it's not that great. And there aren't really any other ones, so yeah, there's probably not many options, honestly. That gives strength, chance to half defense, or actual resistance to damage. Yeah, there's not many Godforge spears, so you're kind of lacking options. Yeah, there's not really any other options. I think I'm going to work on this one over the next 2 weeks. If I can be bothered, that's a big if. If I can be bothered, I'm going to try to max this one out, because I do use it a lot. And then I'll probably try and max this one out. That's if I can be bothered to, though, because it takes a lot of time. And I know I said I was going to do a Battlegraph Simulator boss video for Thunderbird. I just didn't get around to it because I've been, I didn't play much last week, and I've been doing some other games and stuff came out, so. I'll at least get the, 20% isn't bad. I'll at least get the video out on that Thunderbird in the next couple of weeks, for sure. Or at least in the next month or so. There's no rush really, I don't think. I haven't really done much Battlegraph Simulator over the past 2 weeks. I haven't really done too much. I mostly did Raid Boss and the event and stuff, but yeah, I think I'll leave it there for today. I'll be back, like Terminator, in 2 weeks for the Shift Lilibet, who's definitely going to be the next unit, by the way. I don't know why people voted for Lilibet, it's weird. I don't care too much about Lilibet, so she's probably going to be a skip for me unless she has something crazy, I don't know. But we'll have to wait and see on what she provides. So I will add the timestamps in the next 10-15 minutes. A guide for world raids? Not really. Like, it's not really a thing I can do. Because world raids are kind of is a competitive game mode, so I don't cover competitive PvP or any form of competitive game modes. The most important thing about raid bosses is look at what the enemy is weak against. That boss, the last boss we had, was weak against ice. So usually when a boss is weak against something, your units for that element get boosted damage caps and damage. Yeah, it's gonna be Lilibet. So I used one team was Shift Arc, a second team was Christmas Rem, a third team was Shift Lornado and Base Lornado. So what I recommend to do for raid bosses is have a team focused on like one main damage dealer, if you have them. So have like raid bosses do require a lot more on your account to be able to compete in the higher ranks, and you're going to need multiple top tier damage dealers to be able to do well on those. So of course the best team is going to be Shift Arc, who's going to be in one team, and then the other 3 units can just be supporting him, or maybe one of the best units to pair with him is Riser. And then the second team could be a different main damage dealer, like Christmas Rem, for instance, could be a main damage dealer for your second team, and then you could have 3 other units to support her. That's kind of what you should be doing, is one main damage dealer that is very strong, and then the other units supporting them. And SET units, super important. Yeah, well, I don't think anyone's going to make a guide because it's a competitive game mode, unfortunately. And all I can do is give advice, and all anyone is ever going to do is give advice on raid bosses, because it is a competitive mode and people don't share their teams on that unless you're in a guild. Sometimes they might give some more advice on that, but think outside the box. Some bosses, some units that may not be considered a support unit can still can be a supportive role. Like, for instance, in my Shift Arc team, I got 1.7 billion damage in my Shift Arc team because I used Shift Arc plus Lena. Actually, I didn't. I used Shift Arc with Summer Sarah. She can actually be used as a support SCT battery unit. She was especially good against the last boss because she's an ice unit and she's an amazing SCT battery unit. So I used her as my main SCT battery unit for Honey Elixir Shift Arc, and also her charisma I gave Shift Arc Icy Guardian, and kind of had those two paired together very well with Riser and a 4th unit I don't remember. I think 4th unit was Telestio, so it was Telestio, Summer Sarah, Shift Arc, and Riser as my team. That's all you're going to get out of me. That's just kind of to give you an idea of what you should be looking for, something like that. If you don't have Honey Elixir, then you have to have some form of SCT skill. Like, it's a must-have. So if you don't have Honey Elixir or any single other SCT spell, then yeah, just any of those other ones that they've listed is good. Telestio can be an SCT battery, yeah, but I used him as a support with like EX Drain and Elemental Circle and a lot of debuffs, really. And you don't need a tank or any supportive survivability buffs. You just need to focus on damage, doing as much damage as possible in the raid bosses. I think the only usable tanks for PvP in the game right now is Dark Ruto and Melza. Those are the only 2 tanks I think of. And Jian, possibly, but she's more of a supportive tank. She isn't really a main tank. Just Ruto and Melza are the 2 best tanks right now that are available. There are a lot of outdated tanks that are just useless now, unfortunately. That's just kind of how it is. But yeah, I think I'll leave it there for today. If anyone has any questions on anything, you can always join Discord servers, either the official Last Cloudia Discord or Tweak's Discord. There's a lot of information on both of those servers, so I do recommend to join those 2 servers because they provide the most information and they can help out a lot of players with most things. And I don't like to be the one guy that has to answer every single person's question ever, you know, because it's best to join Discord and, you know, check current information that's out everywhere. But otherwise, I would be here like the entire day, 24/7, just answering people's questions. I don't mind answering a couple questions, but being here every single day, all the time to answer random questions, joining Discord is the best recommendation I have. Okay, Reddit, don't use Reddit. I don't use Reddit. Reddit's never recommended. It's a terrible place. It has terrible information. Use Discord, okay? Highly recommended. But yeah, thanks everyone for being here. I will be here for the next stream in 2 weeks. I don't have any plans up until then. I'm probably just going to be chilling, messing around with this unit a bit, and playing some other games. It's kind of what I've been doing recently. I don't have any plans at the moment, so it's probably going to be a nice chill period between now and the Brave Frontier collab, I believe, because I'm just going to be stacking all of my crystals for Brave Frontier. And even then, I still want to save after that. I want to save as much as I can for like everything. It's kind of how it is, but yeah, I'll leave it there for today. I'll have the timestamp very soon. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks for Shift Lilibet. It's definitely going to be Lilibet.